I am heartened by the President's newfound support for the Land and Water Conservation Fund. I've been a champion for this program my entire career, and I'm proud to join Senators Manchin, Daines, and Gardner in this combined bill. And I know that the chairwoman is very, very interested in seeing us do things on conservation. I'd like to note that this is something President Obama supported in his budget request, both permanent and mandatory. And I hope the President is sincere in abandoning this administration's previous attempts to gut the LWCF. I'd be more than eager to work across party lines with him to get this done for the American people and for future generations. Secretary Bernhardt, there is tremendous excitement in the conservation community today. Can you assure us that the whole administration is now supporting the President's call for permanent, mandatory LWCF funding? And will you work with us in a bipartisan way to get this done as soon as possible?
So it's not my recollection that President Obama's proposal contained the parks proposal. Number one. Number two. Look, the President made his comment, and I'm pretty 100% confident everybody's getting in line.
Great, that's great. And my understanding, you know, originally the sad thing in looking at commissions with vision, Lawrence Rockefeller, as you know, before we had the Land and Water Conservation Fund, chaired an outdoor commission. And the recommendation of that commission, I believe, was spend $1 billion a year because the needs are there. It's going to make us a better country. And now in recent times, we've had several presidents say we're going to do that. So both of us are smiling, and that's a good deal.
Yesterday, I actually saw a photo of, I was looking through some old LWCF material, and there's a photo of you, your dad, and I assume your brother on a raft at the bottom of the Grand Canyon as your dad's talking about it. So I thought that was kind of neat. He had to end up combining business trips and family trips. Yeah, that would result in a major Inspector General investigation today. But
in those days you could do them both together. And the secretary, we had six children, and so we ended up doing that. I'd like to ask a couple of questions about what some scientists are calling our climate emergency. I'm extremely troubled by the report in Monday's New York Times that at least one departmental official tried to insert inaccurate language in the studies and reports at the Bureau of Reclamation, and language that denies the scientific consensus regarding climate change, including the debunked claim that increasing carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is beneficial. In fact, the Times report says that by 2018, the Bureau had, quote, adopted a de facto requirement that studies reference climate uncertainty, end quote, in contravention of established science. And this story comes on the heels of other reports that officials attempted to censor a National Park Service report on climate and retaliated against senior employees for their climate work. Mr. Secretary, you yourself have testified that the climate is changing and that humans are a contributing factor. But unfortunately, you have denied that your department has any real responsibility for doing anything about it. And now this new report raises alarms about what the department is really doing behind the scenes with respect to climate science. So let me ask a yes or no question. Does the department or any of your bureaus have a position, either officially or unofficially, to question the scientific consensus that climate change is occurring and is human-caused as part of its decision documents?
So I pulled, coming up here today, I pulled page...
You give me a yes or no before you go into the...
So I believe fundamentally that the department regularly in publications, and here's just a few, we regularly comment on climate. We regularly comment on the fact that the climate is changing, and we try and have the best information and the best science to do that. And I'm happy to insert this into the record as just one quick example of hundreds of reports that we do. Virtually every EIS that we put out has a discussion specifically on climate. And so that is the reality, and we follow the best science wherever it leads us.
Were you aware that this Interior official attempted to insert language in reports that ignores well-established climate science. Do you agree with this so-called uncertainty language that was inserted into multiple department documents and reports? And were any policy decisions reached as a result of these faulty assumptions?
Well, let me say a couple things first to clarify the record. The employee is a long-term career employee who has these views as a career employee. I've asked to see what's been edited and what's not, but the reality is there are, in reading the article, there are some things that more scientists than others might disagree with or agree with in that article itself. So I'll get to the bottom of that. But the reality is, that the employee is a long-term career employee. He has these views, just like other experts within their fields tend to have views, and those views are regularly debated within the scientific community and the department.
Yeah, Mr. And I know I'm up, but just let me follow up here in just a second. I'm very happy you're looking at it. I hope you'll release something so we can settle this, that climate change is an existential threat and is human caused, and we ought to be proactive on it. The other thing I would note, though, during this administration, this career employee had a much more low-level position, and during your tenure and the previous tenure was moved into the deputy secretary's office
actually not
to do
quite,
this.
That's actually not quite true, and I would be careful about that.
Tell me what the truth is.
So it's my understanding. My understanding is that he was at some point early in the administration was detailed to the deputy secretary's office. I can tell you this: the day I found out about that, I undetailed him. So he's a career person. He's a good in policy management and budget, and that's where he's been. And you know, that's where he's been.
Thank you for your courtesy, Madam Chair.
We're now